Welcome, everybody, to the Rad Life, the only talk radio show that takes you along with host and age explorer Rod Gantos on his continuing journey of discovery into life's challenges, opportunities, options, and all the latest and greatest things that come with getting older. The Rad Life is brought to you this week by Your Home for a Lifetime, a company dedicated to empowering you to stay safely, independently, and comfortably in your own home. And now here is your host, Rod Gantos.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. It is another episode of The Rad Life. And I'm actually, can I just do a shout out for whoever it was that just texted me? And I apologize for not having their number in my phone. But they said, are you on the air? Yes, we are on the air. We needed to warm up our guest today.
Is that what we call it?
Yes,
okay.
We're warming up our guest a little bit, right? Not that she needs warming up, but I think we were having too much fun warming up for the show that we kind of lost track of time until Paul basically said, hey, are you coming in?
They're across the street.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We got to walk across the street. Okay, so I want to give a shout out to the Center Club, by the way, and Shaheen and all the crowd over there, Austin, Victor, everybody. Who am I forgetting?
Catherine.
Kristen. Or the crew from the Valet, all those guys. I mean,
I know.
Yeah,
I love Andrew.
Seriously, right? For those who don't know, both myself and my guest are members there, and we usually park there and grab a bite to eat, and then prepare for the show, and then walk over.
Is that what we're calling it today? Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Paul. Did I not call you for that preparation meeting today?
No.
Okay, but. Seriously, though, right? It's a great organization. It's a great location. It's amazing. If you guys don't know about the Center Club, which is kind of a little bit of a hidden secret, I suggest everybody basically check out Club Core and the Center Club. We'll just give them a plug because we enjoy all that they do for us every day of the week. It's an awesome place to work out of there. And if you do go in and you do decide to join, make sure to name drop both my name and Wendy's and let them know that we sent you. And with that, I will introduce my guest. Wendy is a person I met at the Center Club.
Today?
No, not today. Okay. Ignore Paul, as you do every week. Okay, all right. So it's just housekeeping. Ignore Paul. That's okay.
That's just part of the show.
It's just housekeeping for the show.
That's just part of the show.
Yeah. He's okay. So I'm going to share this with Wendy and for everybody who's listening. Right when I first started to do the show, I basically came in and we had this show and we had this shtick going on with Paul. We do like 10 minutes of shtick when we first started, right? Which we don't have time for today. But anyway, listen to old shows. I'll also give you the website. You can enjoy the shtick, right? But we do this shtick. And then I walked in and I said, you're kind of like my Robin. And he says, oh, like Batman and Robin. And I said, no, hell no. Howard Stern and Robin.
Oh, ouch. I didn't like that one.
Okay.
The Boy Wonder I could take, but
The Boy Wonder, the Boy Plunder, maybe. Okay, but anyway, so I met Wendy at the Center Club. She did a great presentation, and for those who know me, know that I basically have spent enough time listening to people give me boilerplate that I basically can smell it coming a mile away.
You don't like fake.
I don't like fake. The show is all about authentic.
You don't like process.
You see what you get what you see.
No baloney here.
No baloney. Can I get back to the show now? Okay, thank you.
Just trying to move it along here.
You're moving along. Okay, with
10 minutes late.
With cold cuts
Yeah.
and jabs. Okay, so but really, her presentation was pretty amazing, and I really appreciated the fact that it was not only candid, but it was also out of the box. I haven't shared this with her, but she knows that I was standing in the back of the room going, just kind of like, my back was hurting, so I had to stand against the wall. But the presentation was very, very effective, and I really liked that she had a different perspective on things, and we're going to cover that in the show today. She also is relaunching her career and brand as a real estate investment expert. She's been in the industry how long, Wendy?
30 years.
30 years in the industry. And so she has a perspective of seeing how the real estate market has changed over the course of the 30 years, both in terms of investments, in terms of the kind of end profile user, what they're looking for. It's a different time out there, and if you're still basically selling or marketing, this is across industries, by the way, the same way you've been doing for the last 20, 30 years, you need to wake up. because
And
the world
smelled
around
the
you-
coffee,
the-
which I did as they came in, and I won't make any comments.
You
here.
smelled the coffee. Yes, he smelled the coffee. For those who are on camera, the coffee. Okay. Thank you, Senator
That's
Club.
good coffee.
Okay. I want to give a shout out to Austin.
That's
actually,
good
for that.
coffee.
Okay. All right. But seriously, it is a changing world out there. And if you are not building new skills, you're not developing new connections, you're not reaching out to people that have a different thing, a different way, a more fine-tuned way of basically dealing with things. That was Paul knocking the mic around.
You knocked me over when you
Right?
said all that.
If you're not doing that, okay, if you're not evolving, then you're a dinosaur ready to die. Okay.
Why you look at me when you say that?
Well, because you're a dinosaur. but to give you credit, Paul, you reinvented yourself.
I did.
And people don't hear the story enough about OC Talk Radio. Paul reinvented himself about 5 or 6 years ago. Paul, how long ago was it?
Oh, even longer than that. I was in my mid-50s, yeah.
No, but
Late
when
50s.
you set up the radio station, when was that?
2010 was I really started
Right, so
doing
9
this.
years,
so
9 years ago.
yeah.
It's almost a decade.
6 years here.
We're going to
Yeah.
have to have a celebration next year.
Yeah.
Okay, but 10 years ago, he found himself in a quandary, and he basically was sitting at home, spending way too much time on YouTube, and his wife was about to kill him,
Right.
and needed to get him out of the house.
Absolutely.
And she said, "Get the hell out of my house." And he said, like, permanently, or
Exactly.
or just like 9 to 5. And
Just for an hour.
She said, "Well, let's start with the 9 to 5 and see how it goes." Okay. What is your wife's name, by the way?
Jan.
You've told me before, Jan. Okay, Jan, I got to tell you, if you put up with this guy,
Oh.
I got to put up with him once a
Oh,
week,
my
right? But
goodness.
you are a saint, and and I will send a notice to the Pope.
32
for
years.
canonization.
32 years.
Congratulations, that's a big accomplishment. But Paul reinvented himself about 9 years ago, and he came in and he set up a OC Talk Radio, and ended up doing a pursuit. May I say, a pursuit of passion? Which,
Totally.
Again, this will relate to what we're talking about here. Pursuit of passion in what he did in college.
Yeah.
Which is running a radio station at the University of Michigan. Did I get it right?
You got it right.
I got it right this time,
You
finally.
bet.
4 years later, I know where he
Go
went
Blue.
to school. Okay, go Blue. So, I used to say Minnesota, but it's wrong.
No.
Okay. It's,
Please.
yeah.
I was born in Minnesota, but I went to U of L.
Okay, see, this is the confusion. Okay? But I need input.
Right.
But the thing with Paul is that he really reinvented himself. How old were you when you did that?
Late 50s.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it's never too late.
Mid-50s,
But
yeah.
you got to continue to be interested, engaged, involved, reinvent yourself. Okay, if you don't, you are a dinosaur.
And you have to think it's possible. And I didn't think at my age it was possible to reinvent
but
myself.
but you weren't ready. You didn't really
No.
walk in thinking it was possible when you did it.
No. I took a 6-month lease, and we've been here for 6 years.
Right, and Wendy's like, well, what the hell does that have to do with me? And
No,
Paul,
I'm okay with
okay,
this.
Paul will tell you that I will always tie it back.
Somehow. He finds a way to bring all these threads together.
And I'm about to tie it back.
All right.
Okay, so you've been in the industry, Wendy, for 30 years.
Right.
Okay, and you are about to reinvent yourself.
I am.
Okay, right. So I understand Paul visually doesn't look like a successful example, but that's because he just won't give up his cargo pants.
That's right.
Oh,
I won't give up my 70s look
Cargo
here.
pants are back,
They
Cargo
are?
pants are back?
See?
That's all the rage.
Oh, good
There you
Lord.
go.
Where have you been,
Okay,
Rod?
you can leave now.
Just saying.
No, we do not want to support his neuroses when it comes to cargo pants because the summer
My
brings
addiction.
cargo shorts.
I'm going to be nice to the man who could pull the plug.
That's right. See, she
Right.
knows. She knows. Be nice to the... At least while you're in here, be nice to me.
He's not going to pull the plug. I pay him for the airtime. Okay, we're covered. But no, seriously, I do want to give kudos and credit for Paul because he is a living example of exactly what it means to reinvent yourself. And I say this and I share this story all the time. Yeah. How many shows do you have on?
24, 25.
Yeah, you got 24 shows. Fine. What in a decade, which is an accomplishment in itself, right? But really, the story for me here is that here's a gentleman faced with adversity, faced with the changing world around him, still found a way to engage and get involved, and not only survive but thrive. So kudos to you, Paul.
Thank
it
you.
doesn't get said enough.
you.
And I'm
Yeah.
and yeah, he's gonna give himself a clap now, right? Go ahead.
Oh, that,
What is
got
this,
me excited. I can't even-
Chariots of fire now. What do
yeah,
you
right. What am I going to do? Where's the applause here?
Start running.
Sorry.
All right.
Okay. See,
Very small.
Paul
applause.
is very self-actualized. He will even clap for himself.
Yeah, I
right?
make
Okay.
myself feel happy.
Right,
I
you
feel
know.
flattered.
Which we really all need to remember, right? The affirmations and the support and the accolades and stuff like that. Really, the most meaningful ones are the ones that we give ourselves.
Amen.
Okay,
Absolutely.
So, Wendy, introduce yourself. Tell people how you ended up in real estate, because I know you were involved in construction as well, along other things, right? What has made this a sustainable path for you for as long as you have? And then how do you see things changing today to where you're excited about moving forward, but the need for reinventing yourself?
It's funny because you actually nailed it in that if you're not heads up and paying attention to what's
I
going
told you this was a
on-
good show.
Yeah, so far. So far. Back to your initial question. I'm Wendy Hooper Ross, and the reinvention is happening because Ross is a new name for me. So when you're in sales and you change your name, you have to let the world know. So I decided to make a splash and say, all right, new name, same game. And my industry is being disrupted like everybody else's. And so I had to decide how to respond to it. But to your other question, 30 years, how did it happen?
How did it happen?
I think like most people in real estate, it happens by accident. You know, who wakes up and says, I want to be a realtor? That's my career path.
So what happened in your case?
In my case, a very dear friend of mine had a job at a real estate office, and I was young and entering college at 16. And she said, hey, you should come here and work at the office. And I did. And I just sort of got sucked into it through a relationship. What I found is that I was good at it. And I was supporting realtors, and I was being their admin and their Girl Friday. And this is way pre-technology. So I was manually assembling files.
A lot of paperwork,
Oh,
a
my
lot of
goodness.
filing.
Yep. Yeah. That was back when the MLS was a physical book.
Yeah.
And I was the flunky that would like flip the pages and put the new photographs in there and call and see if it was, you know, is this house still for sale and can we show it and all that good stuff. So
Right.
it was very foundational and it was wonderful. So 30 years ago, I was learning the foundation that now is all automated.
Were you in Orange County at the time as well?
Now I was in Silicon Valley. I was
Okay.
up in scenic San Jose.
Okay.
So the world has changed. I grew up with the silicon chip in Silicon Valley, and it was really interesting to be there and see how our industry, or all industries, were affected by technology.
Well, and that whole market basically changed from being basically boonies and you know outer fields and cabins to basically, you know, where real estate is one of the most premium priced real estate in the country.
Yeah, it was insane.
Yeah.
It was just insane. I watched the vineyards go away, and you know the mid-rise office buildings take their place instead.
Similarly to what happened here with orange groves and build-outs.
Precisely.
I mean,
Precisely.
I remember the days when the spectrum was basically nothing but strawberry fields,
See?
right?
Yeah.
Right on the El Toro. I mean, it's like, wait a minute, I just got past the El Toro Y. Oh my God, I am in the, you know, back 40 at this point. That wasn't that long ago.
Well, yeah, that's why they used to call it the orange curtain, right? You would come down from L.A. into this vast abyss of nothingness.
I remember going to design school in 91 to 94 in Newport Beach and having to explain to people where San Clemente was by
That's
virtue
awesome.
of the fact that it's 15 to 20 minutes south of San Juan Capistrano.
Hmm.
There was no 73. My commute was PCH. I would leave Laguna, and until I hit Corona del Mar, there was nothing but pastoral California, as it basically looked like probably for centuries, other than the Shake Shack on Crystal Cove,
Which is
which
epic.
is now a Ruby's. But thank God for Ruby's basically understanding the value of something like that and keeping it in the nature it is. And then the Crystal Cove Conservancy, which again, kudos to them for really like taking on those properties and keeping them as part of that heritage and legacy. We really need authenticity around us to root and anchor us. So in the you know, kind of almost dizzying speed of running against everything that is old and making everything new and changing everything, especially California, right? Where California, nobody gets older. We don't change clothes in the summer and winter. We don't take out salt and put it on driveways like the Midwest does. We live in an environment where it's actually, in my opinion, more critical that we preserve some of this stuff so that we have an anchoring, a continuity.
I agree, and I'm actually encouraged because the reports that I'm reading lately are saying that millennials are actually embracing all that is old. In fact, I don't know if you had a chance to read it. This morning, my blog post was released, and in it, I talk.
No, sorry, I did not get a chance, but
and
I
he
will do it this
says he
afternoon.
loves me. Okay.
I'll do it this afternoon.
All right. Well,
Paul, could you read it for me and just send?
I'm reading
give
it
me a
right now.
synopsis?
It's
Okay.
pretty
Thank you,
good.
Paul.
It's pretty good. Okay.
So millennials are embracing property that's 1950s, mid-century, or older, or brand new. So they're kind of shunning that which looks like the Brady Bunch, or you know where they grew up and where Grandma lived. But they really are embracing.
The millennials didn't grow up in Brady Bunch. That's
Well,
nostalgic Americana for them.
But
right?
that's what their grandmother's house looked like.
right.
right.
And anybody who has, you know, if you don't know this already, you've been, you know, living under the rock for the last 5 years, and I mean that very respectfully, but you're still living under the rock. Palm Springs has made a major success out of mid-century modern.
Oh yeah.
right?
Modernism Week
Yeah,
is
I
just
would give a shout
everything.
out to my buddy Christopher Kennedy, who's a designer out there who's had design houses every year, and his work is amazing. Check out Christopher Kennedy's work. There's been a resurgence, to your point, I think, with the need to connect to something meaningful.
Yes.
As we live in a world where everybody is a selfie king or queen, where content is basically nothing other than cacophony of noise, and there's no quality filter. Everybody is an influencer, whatever the heck that means. Everybody is a friggin', social media guru, whatever the heck that means, right? We have lost a little bit of this. And last week, actually, we had Lou Delgado on, and I think this is appropriate. We were talking about iconic imagery.
Right.
And how this Lou Delgado, for those who don't know, and please go back and listen to the show from last week. I think you'll find it very informative. He's a photographer. He's actually a designated photographer for the Democratic Party. Keep the political bend out of it. He has seen a lot of stuff through his viewfinder, and we talked about things like John saluting the casket. Caroline and John JFK Jr. basically underneath the desk at JFK's Oval Office, or the man who stopped the tank in Tiananmen Square. For those who even remember that, it wasn't that long ago. Those iconic imageries used to unify us. They used to actually give us a place for common ground. And then we basically have now become awash in a sea of imagery, and yet how much of it is actually that meaningful? And I'll leave everybody to answer their own question on that one. But things like mid-century modern, things that like the Shake Shack on Crystal Cove, things like Cook's Corner, for bikers, the fields with the poppies, okay. Which is an amazing thing to watch. But next year, go see it before everybody realizes that they can basically go out there and take a selfie of themselves with a field of orange poppies, because they basically get all trampled every year. These are things that are really something we should honor and respect. And a lot of it in Orange County tends to relate around real estate, tends to relate around destinations, locations, right? I mean,
Well, and don't forget, we all live somewhere. And home still is our nest. It still is where we go home, we lick our wounds, we hide our shame from the world or whatever,
Yeah.
and we reboot and we restart again. So whatever
that
we want to
sanctuary,
call
that
it,
safe place, right?
yeah, it's not going away. So we have to just remind ourselves, okay, what is this? What does this mean to us? And how are we going to approach it?
So how has the real estate market, from your perspective, because I think you bring an interesting, unique vantage point, how has it changed in the last 30 years? I mean, we are a very real estate-driven part of the country.
Right.
I wouldn't even say even just Orange County. I mean, Orange County is on steroids, but Southern California in general, California in maybe lesser, but Southern California, it has been, I mean, you go back and watch Chinatown and realize that the whole storyline is basically built around water rights and development, right? And so we are very real estate driven. We're very development driven. We're very reinvent our commercial spaces, how we live, quality of life is very linked to buildable environments. How has it changed in the last 30 years?
Well, since I come from the perspective of residential real estate, I'm going to speak from that perspective.
Okay.
And for the longest time, I would say the last probably 25 years or so in Orange County, at least, probably Southern California overall, people have viewed residential real estate as an investment or a commodity, not just a home. And that's evolved radically. And that was what was the foundation of the speech that I gave, where you stood up in the back of the room. And incidentally, I thought he was standing up to get a better view of me and hear what I said, but no, his back just hurt. But anyway, in that speech, I was talking about...
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, whatever. Our relationship to real estate has changed. We all know in mid-century America, the United States coined for the world the notion of the American dream. And the American dream was that house, the white picket fence, the 2.5 kids, the dog, the great job, the retirement, the pension.
Leave it to Beaver meets Wonder Years.
Exactly, right. Yeah. Vacuuming in your pearls. I don't know who did that, but that was our iconic dream. And
Paul, do you vacuum in your pearls?
I know I do.
I vacuum in the nude, but I sometimes wear pearls.
Too much information. Moving on. Okay.
I knew I liked that, man. All right.
In his pearls.
But we've evolved, and as we've gone through the crash, that was really epic. I mean, it wasn't just we took down our economy; we shamelessly took the global economy down with us into the toilet, and then had to, like Phoenix, rise from the ashes, dust it off, and figure out what we're going to do. So, of course, we did. Our economy rebounded, but what happened was we left the largest demographic demographic of our population, the millennials, imprinted with this notion that real estate is unreliable. It's not an investment. It's
Interesting
not secure,
perspective. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So they don't view owning a home as the American dream. In fact, a Harvard study showed that nearly 50% of all millennials, when surveyed, said that they thought the American dream was dead.
And you said something that was interesting in your presentation where the stigma, and I think exactly
Right.
that's probably the word you used,
It is.
the stigma for rental versus home ownership is no longer.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I can understand that. Like you've got a well employed population,
Right.
younger, waiting to get married later,
Right.
not looking to start families really quick,
Well educated.
well educated, able to travel,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not by the way, it's not an odd scenario because I think other countries probably have experienced this to a certain extent.
Remember, I
certain
touched on
urban-
that in my speech. We're
Yeah.
becoming more European.
Yeah, in urban centers like London, Paris, places like that, where it's basically not necessarily a transitional population, but it's a population that wants to be flexible. I don't want to worry about the property, weeding on a weekends, going to Home Depot and basically buying stuff. Right? We even talked about what does that really mean to some of these big boxes that are basically built their whole existence on. Hey, every weekend there's a project at home, right?
Right, right.
But you basically, I want a pied a terre. I want something that doesn't have obligations. Maybe has a porter, has some support services I can order conveniently on my app, my iPad or my iPhone, or just kind of get it basically delivered to my house. Don't have to worry about what happens on the weekend. Maybe I have a pet, maybe I don't. The extent of my involvement is walking a dog or not.
But actually, most of them do. I mean, dogs are very chic. It's the new hot accessory.
So it's all, but I also will tell you from my perspective, from the spa industry and the wellness and hospitality industry, is that there's also a hunger because the number one thing that people talk about is loneliness.
Right.
In that generation.
Right.
So it makes sense that you would have a companion.
Well, that's a whole nother radio show, I'm sure, about the social changes and
but-
isolationism that's occurring.
But it does reflect into, are pets allowed? Are pets not allowed? Right? Your rental property, right? And we talked about rental property converting to condos, right?
Right,
And
right.
ownership that way. But you said that the stigma of the stigma of renting versus home ownership is kind of gone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that goes back to the American dream. It used to be a pointed object of pride to say,
Yeah.
I bought my house. That was a rite of passage. You bought your house, you got married, you had your children. That was
It was a
expected.
benchmark of achieving.
Absolutely.
Reaching.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then even above and beyond that, when you paid off your mortgage, many people don't understand this. Having a red front door, it's not just chic. Globally, in Europe and in the United States, you painted your front door red when you paid off your mortgage.
Ah.
That was like proclaiming to the world, I own this. This is 100% mine. People just don't care.
I think
anymore.
in Orange County you can get that specified by the developer when you basically start your
Right.
mortgage. Actually,
Right.
But-
You go
but-
in $1 million in debt and
But
paint that front door
it's
red.
interesting. That was a sign of actually having paid off your home.
It was a deliberate, iconic
I did not know
statement.
that. That's pretty cool.
I'm here to help.
Thank you. So with that being said, you still have people that are affluent,
Right.
that are younger,
Right.
that are not owning homes. That
Well, they're not owning homes that they live in.
That's this is where I was going. They may not even buy a car. They may use Uber. They may basically, they don't want the hassle of gas money or whatever, right? And you see how that affects everything from the way the new Tesla 3 model basically is being sold, the appeal and the attraction, But so speak a little bit more about that, because I thought that was a very interesting take in your presentation, where you basically torpedoed the whole reality of a white picket fence, 2.5 kids, 2 cars in the driveway, move to suburbia, basically have no life other than paying your mortgage, to I'm renting,
Right.
I got a salary.
Well, as much as I'd like to own that I torpedoed that myself personally, I didn't. But what happened was this. I was noticing a change in what was happening with my clients.
Yeah.
From the millennials, who are the largest demographic right now, even to my older clients, they're all starting to say, hey, what about converting this property that I'm moving out of into a rental? Or
Oh, interesting.
You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
I'd like to acquire a property as a rental because I can't afford the average home in Orange County to live in that's near my work center or whatever. I'm going to have to rent a home in that neighborhood. And often because I want to rent a status address.
Yeah.
And I don't want the nonsense that goes with it, like the property taxes and the maintenance that
Right.
you just spoke to.
Right.
So instead, they're buying less expensive properties in outlying areas as rentals.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, this is fascinating. I wonder how many people are doing this. So I spent a stupid amount of time going through tax records to see sales that were both transacted on the record, if you will, through realtors, and those that were done quietly off the record but were still recorded with the
What'd you
county
find?
assessor. I found nearly 1 in 3 residential sales 2019 year to date were non-owner occupied purchases.
Interesting.
And that flies in the face of our 20-year history of between 16 and 22% being non-owner
So
occupied.
are you telling me that people that are comfortable renting
Mm-hmm.
are then putting their money and investing into owning property that they're basically then turning around and putting into a rental pool?
Yeah, and they're very
Interesting.
smart because they're taking advantage of these new tax code changes.
Well, because the current tax codes are not necessarily favorable, especially in states like California, for
High-cost areas.
homeownership.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So they're thinking, all right, what else
Thank
can
you,
I do?
tax reform. Yeah.
Well, where there's a will, there's a way. They're being smart and they're finding an alternative way.
We have said this multiple times on this show. It's a matter of perspective, whether you look at something as a challenge or an opportunity.
Do you adapt and survive
You
or
adapt
not?
to survive or you don't. Right.
Right.
Exactly. Cargo pants or no cargo pants, Paul.
But we're not judging.
Are you judging me again?
No,
here?
no, no,
not
no,
judging.
no judging. No judging. Maybe a little, but no. Okay, but no, it's a very fascinating thing because again, like we just barely touched on the fact that what does that mean to big box stores like Home Depot, Lowe's. What does that mean for places that like Costco, where you're supposed to be buying in volume, but I'm really living in an apartment,
Right.
right? What happens to car dealerships that basically are like, man, I'm just going to use Uber, or I mean, maybe I'll go into a carpool situation. I mean, there's certain urban centers you can basically literally put your card in a slot and basically take a motorized scooter and get you to wherever you want and just leave it
Right.
there.
Right. Well,
You're right. We're kind of becoming more European that way.
we're becoming more European that way. And what's going to happen, people need to pay attention, is that fewer people are going to own real estate, which means more people are going to start controlling the market. And again, in that speech that I gave you, I showed you that when you have a finite group of people controlling any one commodity, they control the price.
Mm-hmm.
So the notion that people are going to continue to rent and save money to ultimately buy a house one day is a bit misguided because your rental rates are going to continue to go up because Joe Blow homeowner who's working his 9-to-5 job is going to be very, very judicious about watching the rental market and making sure he's getting every dollar he can.
And
he
all the
will.
amenities that come with it. And if I'm renting from you,
Mm-hmm.
I have a rental maybe agreement, but at some point I'm going to look around and see what else is out there. So you don't
Sure.
have me tied into that property. If the penalty is 1 month's worth of rent, but I'm looking at the new property that just built down the street and they're providing me with more amenities and lifestyle quality product,
Right.
guess where I'm going?
Right.
I'm dumping you like a hot potato, and I'm going to go over there. There's no loyalty to this.
There's not, but I'm curious to see what happens with that because what you're describing is the individual homeowner who might own 2 or 3 duplexes versus the Irvine company that owns thousands and thousands of units.
Well, let's put another layer to this. Okay, it's not only the millennials that are basically impacted by something like this. It could very easily be a surviving spouse that basically is looking for a community by which to provide their support and services for them as they get older.
Sure.
They're able-bodied. I mean, it's consider it almost like the modern, and I'm not being gender specific, but the modern Golden Girls.
Yeah, well, and to your point, I mean, I'm recently widowed.
Yeah.
And had I not just bought my home, I would have considered that.
Yeah.
I truly would have because there was just so much on my plate. I would have thought, okay, I need to minimize, and that would have been
Well, and you're
attractive
living
to
in
me.
a home on your own. Yes, granted, your neighbors maybe. It's an older part of town. I won't say where, but where you basically have a continuous connection with people around you.
Right.
But if you didn't have that,
Right.
then a home that basically had the very comfortable couple of master suite combinations and could accommodate 3 or 4 people.
Right.
At the very least, those 3 or 4 people could go in on a joint purchase of something like
Mm-hmm.
that, and they have a built-in support system.
Exactly.
It's almost like your own high-end boutique boarding care, if you will.
And that's exactly how I'm advising my clients. It's like, take a look at these micro apartment communities and figure out how do you scale this to suit the immediacy of the needs of your marketplace.
And if people don't believe what we're talking about, do a little research and find out what's going on in some of these communities in places like LA. These are very well-heeled, affluent people with resources
Right.
and financial abilities
Right.
that are basically teaming together to provide themselves in a sustainable living environment as they get older. So it's not just the youth of this of this country that are looking at, I don't need to buy a home, I can rent, I'm more flexible, put a backpack on my back and basically take off for 2 weeks. I don't have to
Right.
worry about who's watering my garden or who's walking my dog and who's basically making sure that, Oh, Paul, the baby boomer, has got his hand up. What's up, Paul?
Very curious listening to this conversation. I have to ask the question I always want to ask at these moments. Is Orange County ready to accept turning into Manhattan or San Francisco?
Have you looked at what's going on around the spectrum?
I know it's happening, but I'm just saying,
What exactly do you mean by that? Do you mean high rises?
high rises. As we abandon tract homes and we go to higher density, as we go to up instead of out, it seems like there's a backlash that's either could happen or is already happening. Huntington Beach had a big backlash where they tried to scale back the density of development over there. Other people are seeing apartments going up everywhere. And I don't think they realize that this is the way the community is going. Will we start tearing up tracts and turn into?
I think, though, here's the thing, right? It has to be, and this is the key word, I know developers don't like to hear this, appropriate and sensitive. Because you will kill the goose that lays the golden egg if you build something that's not appropriate or sensitive in a particular market. That doesn't mean that you cannot change the nature of the type of housing that's available. But if you basically go into a community that is all single-family homes, and what you do is literally bulldoze one lot after the other, and somehow get a zoning for 3, 4, 5 stories, high density, the biggest.
But isn't that where this is kind of headed? I just saw some law just changed. I think in California at the state level.
Well, it's driven by
higher density. You could build 2 or 3
you know what
granny homes.
And I'm going to let Wendy.
Don't ask me. I just do this for a living.
Well, I'm going to ask. No,
really,
Wendy to
talk
answer.
amongst yourselves.
But here, the thing about that, though, Paul, is the motivation for what you're describing that is changing the regulations and easing certain restrictions
Is homelessness.
Is homelessness.
Yeah.
It's affordable housing.
Right.
But are we really standing true to that conviction and building affordable housing and taking care of the homeless problem? Or are we just basically using this as a reason to open up more development at higher price to compound the problem that we already have? Because that is what I'm seeing happening.
Okay, the short answer is no.
Yes.
That's all I got. No.
No? Yes.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
But to your point.
So is Orange County ready to, are we as a community ready to embrace the notion that we're no longer tract homes and leave it to be
we've had a homeless problem in Orange County for over 2 decades. Okay, we have not been aware of it. Anybody who drove by the Santa Ana riverbed realized we had a homeless problem. Anybody who went to Mary's Kitchen
you don't have
in
to
Santa Ana,
see it. It's somewhere else.
But here's the thing, right? We had $180 million set aside at the supervisor level that everybody acted like we didn't know that this was. How the heck do you hold your job if you have somehow misplaced $180 million? I'm sorry, supervisors, but I'm not buying that for a split second. Okay, you knew the money was there. I understand that the political fallout of basically supporting a homeless solution was probably too high for your voter base. Okay, but the bottom line is we have a problem.
And they're finally starting
because because Judge Carter basically put them between a rock and a hard place, and they have to do something.
But neither one of you addressed my question.
I haven't been allowed to. You guys want to stop talking?
So we'll let her do it. So I'm going to reframe it. I get that it's happening. I get that it has to happen, and it will happen whether we want it to or not. But are we as a community really ready to accept a different vision of Orange County?
No. The answer is no. And I would direct your attention to Banning Ranch. Banning Ranch is that strip of land along the Santa Ana riverbed between Costa Mesa and Huntington Beach.
Right.
And we have, the Banning Ranch Company, Conservancy, what have you, has been trying to develop that property and put in what I think is a very reasonable number of single-family homes and a very reasonable number of condominiums, and to actually clean up that land.
It's actually true. It's a very sensitive solution.
Right?
Correct.
So they're saying, okay, let us clean up this land. Let us remediate the soil, get rid of the oil rigs, preserve the indigenous species and whatnot that are there, and put a reasonable number of houses on there. And and they have been fighting the community for a decade.
Exactly.
So no, the community is not ready for it. That's just one example. How long did they fight for the toll
And are
road?
what Rod talks about all the time, are the cities ready for this transition?
No.
Do we have the infrastructure in place? Do we have the transportation
because
in
our
place?
political system and therefore our advocacy is driven by elections, vote count, and basically who am I going to basically disrupt, whose existence am I going to disrupt the least in order for them to believe that I am basically looking out to maintain their quality of life as they know it and are comfortable with in their own little bubble. There's an abdication of leadership. I'm not putting it on Orange County alone because I think it's the nature of the beast. It is something where if you go into political office, at some point you have to make a decision. Do I stick my neck out and stand for leadership, even if it's something that is inappropriate and not necessarily appealing to
Even
people?
if I lose my job.
Even if I lose my
Right.
job? Or is it about me holding on to my job?
Well, and this is not just, like you said, an Orange County
It's not
issue.
an Orange County issue.
It's a statewide issue, and I lived 10 years in
Nationwide
Seattle.
and an international issue, actually.
Coastally, I mean, up
Yeah.
and down the coast,
Yeah.
it's crazy. It is a huge problem. And again, to your point, Rod, the accessory dwelling units, the ADUs that have been permitted, as we originally started this conversation with,
Yep.
to take single-family zoning, one-unit zoning, and add an accessory unit was designed to help us create very low-income housing. I have one myself. I have a unit behind my home on
Right.
my lot, and I rent that out. And they're younger people who are building their lives,
Oh,
and they need, it's
Some cities have allowed for what they call, grandma suites or
Right.
Granny flats, ADUs, exactly.
That's a new development that
Exactly,
happened.
exactly.
I think we are responding. I think there's obviously conflicting interests, which is understandable when it's such a valuable piece of property along the coastline, 10 miles in, 20 miles in, whatever your benchmark is. I think the truth, though, is you really got to look at the overall picture. And you don't necessarily have to account for affordable housing in every single development, but the community and the role of leadership in a community is to understand that we do have those issues.
Yes.
And they have to be addressed.
And I will say,
Kicking the can down the road doesn't work. Anybody who's looked for the last 20 years anywhere realizes kicking down the can down the road doesn't do it.
and I will say that sitting in this perch, sitting in this chair where everybody comes through and has this debate on and on and on for over the last few years, I'm amazed in a world where we're so polarized that the two left and right can't seem to talk to themselves about anything or cooperate
that
in
sad?
anything. The one area I hear consensus on, and I don't know why people don't take more advantage of it, is this issue of homelessness. You have Republican.
Only recently.
Okay, well,
Let's call it like it is, Paul.
but you have-
okay,
well, yeah,
sugarcoating it doesn't do what's good
Judge
either.
Carter did a lot by
Yeah.
forcing cities to do this,
Yeah.
but even still, I hear a lot of business types come in here and say, it's good for business. We otherwise we've got people peeing in front of our
Of course it's
camping
good
out
for
for anything.
business.
I hear Republican mayors coming in here saying, and law and order types saying, hey, this is getting out of control, and people are scared. I hear do-gooders coming in saying, well, but you can't abandon these people.
Why don't you hear those same people coming in instead of saying it's getting out of control and people are scared, therefore translate I may lose my job because people will not vote for me because I have not protected them from being scared. Why don't you actually have these people come in and say things like, you know what, there's a moral issue here and a responsibility for me to look out for the people that are less than me.
I don't disagree,
in my
but
community.
I'm just saying that for the first time ever in a long time, I've heard both sides, left and right, conservative, big business types, big developers, charities, churches.
Can I be a little jaded for a split
Well,
second?
but at least they're talking about it.
Also
Everything else
because
they
they're
won't talk about it.
realizing there's a lot of money in
Well,
it
you
now.
brought that up. There's a lot of consultants that are going to get rich off
What's
of the
not
new
to
plans.
like
right?
about a lot of money in consultancy contracts?
Can I just give a shout out to the
You're so
Jamboree
cynical.
House?
Yes.
Jamboree House has done an amazing job, and they are a drop in an ocean of need.
It's a lot of need.
A
I've
lot
never
of
even heard of them. What do they do? I've never
They
even heard
provide low-cost housing assistance for people who are on the street and trying to reemerge back into society.
We should get them in.
I know a lot of
sometime.
people
Should get
don't
them in
understand
here.
this, but nobody wakes up one morning and says, you know what, I think I'm just going to go live on the street.
Right. Yeah, there are
It's just
stories.
easy. I'm just going to go live on
I'm
the
just going
street.
to live on the street.
But
You
there
know?
are tens of thousands of these people, and we're finally, to Rod's point, we're finally holding our officials accountable, and finally there's a conversation happening, thank goodness. It's just too little, and it is too late.
Well,
but
I'm
we
only
have to do it.
holding out some hope that I'm telling you they're at least both sides talking the same
no,
story.
And
That's
you know, kudos to
Right.
both sides for finally
Right.
coming to the table and wanting to work across the aisle for this, because I think it's in the benefit of everybody in society.
Well, and not to make it all about me, but back to me. And I'm telling my investors, that's why I'm saying buy duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, what have you, in Anaheim, in Santa Ana, in
Yeah.
these lower cost areas, and make them pretty and clean and serviceable, but don't overprice them, because you will have a dedicated, loyal following of
Yes, you will.
hardworking people who deserve good housing.
So with that, I know we're going to wrap up here, but I do also want to point out that, Wendy, your relaunch is when?
May 23rd, coming up next week.
Wow.
Coming up next
Are there
week.
going to be
And
balloons
there's
and
an-
parties and celebrations?
There's actually
and-
an event planned at...
At the Center Club, of course, the
At the
center
Center
of my
Club.
universe. So
Mhm.
650 Town Center Drive, 3:30 on Thursday.
And what happens?
Well, we're going to be debuting my new brand, my new website.
Okay.
under Veracity.
Yes, yes. So if you
If
want,
you haven't picked that up from this show yet, yes, there's a lot of veracity across the table.
I'm all about
And Veracity
veracity.
is what? It's a company to how to invest in these things, or do you have REITs, or what do you do to further this goal?
I don't do REITs. I've chosen to dedicate my clientele to individuals, families, investors.
If you have real veracity, okay, then she will handle your real estate. But
Okay.
you have to have real veracity.
First, you got to be truthful.
I have
real
hands-on
veracity.
clients, yeah. So if you go to realveracity.com, you can get information about my launch, and you can sign up to
Yeah.
get in. And there is a finite guest list. I love y'all, but I can't feed everybody.
There won't be a lot of pitch. It's just going to be come meet, interact. Hear a little bit about Wendy.
And we should have talked more about it, but just real quickly, what does your service entail? Do you just find them stuff and then you're just the broker? Do you help them navigate changing the code, the zoning codes or something if it needs to be, or what do you
Soup
do?
to nuts. I am soup to nuts.
Soup to
I'll
nuts.
give you a perfect example of something we just did recently. Wendy had a client that basically was interested in a particular house in a desirable area, border be Costa Mesa, but near Newport Beach, Back Bay, and they were looking to pay a pretty penny on it, put an offer, and we went out because they needed to basically expand certain aspects of the house.
Right.
We literally, within 24 hours of her basically bringing it to my attention, I got one of my contractors. We went out there, we looked at it, we gave them an idea of what it would look like cost-wise, and
Right.
it basically then translated back to the client in order to help them make a decision whether to proceed or not.
And then do you help them sort of think through this as an investment and not just a home?
Yeah. In fact, for that reason, I am most commonly referred to new clients by their attorneys or their financial advisors or their tax advisors. That's where my new business comes from.
So you're the whisperer, you're the Sherpa that guides them up this mountain, this
Yes.
confusing
Until today,
process.
it was a very well kept secret. Rod just wanted to blow that out of the water.
Just pull it out the water.
Yeah, he is. I've been very, very low profile, and I've become known as a residential real estate market analyst, which
Yeah.
is something that doesn't much exist. But as people ask me questions about, hey, what's going on with this, what's going on with that, I would start to write articles and blog posts, and I started finding that people like Lasner and others were paying attention. So I
Jonathan
realized,
Lansner.
The amount of
getting
the amount
some
of research
traction.
that this woman did for her presentation was absolutely impressive. Honestly, for a presentation that was 45 minutes maybe.
It was about 3 weeks of research, yeah.
She did 3 weeks worth of research, and you could tell from what she was basically partaking or imparting. And I will tell you, people who know me know I am not an easy sell.
You like
Okay?
veracity. You like truthfulness.
Veracity is authenticity.
Yeah, truthfulness.
It's truthfulness. And so with that, I will tell you, check out realveracity.com.
I like the name, like
Get-
real
Thank
estate and
you.
real veracity.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I get that.
Well, we're nerds who care, and I do the deep
We're nerds who
dive.
care. I also do want to encourage people to check out the Center Club and try to become a member or use Wendy's event as an opportunity. You need to RSVP.
You do. Go to realveracity.com.
And the date
Veracity.com.
again? Date again?
May 23rd. It's a Thursday.
Coming up real quick.
Right.
Okay.
Come find out what it's all about. Maybe check out the Center Club. Maybe become a member. And I don't think this is the last conversation we're going to have with Wendy on this show. So we'll probably have her.
Well, because it is part of the changing world we live in, which is the focus of your show here. I think unless we want to end up one big leisure world, Orange County is going to have to move, and it could happen. I mean, this is an aging community
it's no
quickly.
longer Leisure Worlds. Now
Yeah.
it's Laguna Woods. But that's
Yeah, but the
Whatever.
millennials actually outnumber the boomers. So.
But they're being pushed out in rapid numbers, like my own daughter and son-in-law, because they can't afford to live here.
They can't afford to buy, Paul, but they're renting and they're buying property that's investment because it's basically tax-friendly. So it's an interesting take.
It's a very interesting
It's a
dynamic.
very
Yeah.
interesting take. For more of that, make sure you're there for the lunch. And
You have been listening to the Rad Life Radio Show with your host and age explorer, Rod Gantos, brought to you on the one and only octalkradio.net. Join us again next week as we continue our journey of discovery into life's challenges, opportunities, options, and all the latest and greatest things that come with getting older.